All righty. If we have not met, my name is Breanne Bales. I'm the manager of the Homeless Contribution Income Tax Credit, or HCTC is how I will be referring to the program throughout this presentation. We also have Lonnie Silva on the line. Lonnie works here at the Office of Homeless Initiatives and will be managing our chat and other technical functions within Zoom today. So if you do have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We're happy to, we're going to pause throughout the presentation to address some of those. So go ahead and put those in the chat, or when we do pause, you can also raise your hand and then ask once we call upon you. So thanks for everyone to you for joining today. For some expectations of what to expect today, here's the agenda. But first of all, if you can just put your name, organization name, and what you're looking forward to in the chat, go ahead. We do have a panel of some nonprofit experts today who have successfully utilized HCTC in their organizations. And so what are you looking forward to hearing from them today? Go ahead and put that along with your name and organization name in the chat. Briefly, today I will be reviewing the purpose of HCTC. Then we're going to have a demonstration from the Colorado Gives Foundation. Then the majority of the time today will be focused on the panel of nonprofit staff, as I just mentioned. And then we're going to touch on some marketing materials and resources that will hopefully help launch you in this upcoming giving season. So first, I just want to pause and really think about why HCTC. Some of you have, been able to implement HCTC successfully. Some have experienced challenges, or you're brand new to the program. And so this this presentation today is really for everyone, and just really wanting to bring it home on the effectiveness of HCTC based on the survey results that we got back from many of you regarding the first year of this tax credit in 2023. You saw a lot of benefits for, obviously, donors. They get that financial benefit of the tax credit when they file their taxes, but also to you as the nonprofit to be able to leverage that financial or that fundraising incentive. So some of you saw larger donations, some saw new donors seeking that double benefit of not only, getting the tax credit, but being able to see their investment in your services. And what I really appreciated from some of your feedback as well is just some of you saw more community awareness of your homelessness services. The programs, maybe you have a variety of activities and services within your organization. This tax credit was able to really bring a spotlight on what you are doing to really make an impact. And so that really warms my heart to know that HCTC not only maybe helps you in your fundraising efforts, but also just having that community backing of your mission. So I also wanted to share the locations for HCTC. So these organizations are for our 2024 approved organizations, 86 across the state. We have a few more that have submitted applications that are being reviewed now that are hoping to join for 2025. But as you can see, HCTC does span the state, and being able to see that impact. If we were to zoom in on the Denver metro area, there'd be a lot more pins popping up because that is a lot of, the centralized services are there, but we do have representation across the state. So yeah, just really excited for our collaboration on the call today. Next, I want to introduce Colorado Gives Foundation. So we do have this as a spotlight, really because this year, Senate Bill 24-16 became law. And so this legislation allows contributions through intermediate organizations to be eligible for the HCTC. And so an intermediary organization is a 501c3 organization that is obligated to disperse contributions to a recipient organization as directed by the taxpayer or donor. So basically a flow through of those contributions, a donation platform, so to speak. And one of the most popular intermediary organizations in the state is Colorado Gives Foundation. And Colorado Gives Day, believe it or not, is coming up sooner than you may think on Tuesday, December 10th. And so on that note, I'd like to welcome Jordan Brown. Jordan is the Nonprofit Success Manager at Colorado Gives Foundation. And Jordan will be reviewing their platform, how to maximize it to fundraise on Colorado Gives Day and throughout the year. Some organizations use this platform not just on, the giving season, but also throughout the year to get those contributions. And so, Jordan, I'm going to pass that over to you and stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for that great intro. We are so excited to be here. Can everybody see my screen? Just a quick thumbs up before I jump in. All right. So I am here today really to share with you exactly what was described in all of your feedback in that survey, how you can spotlight yourself because you qualify for these additional state tax credits, and how you can set that up on coloradogives.org. Yes, Colorado Gives Day is fast approaching. And so this is a great time, again, for you to be spotlighting and appealing to your donors about how they can benefit from this tax credit. Colorado Gives Day starts November 1st, so online donations start counting then. And the big day, the crescendo is December 10th. And so we'd love for everybody to participate, and I'll talk a little bit more about that today. I am the Nonprofit Success Manager, and coloradogives.org is a program of Colorado Gives Foundation. So today we'll briefly chat about what coloradogives.org is, how new nonprofits can engage with the platform. So if you don't already fundraise on coloradogives.org, I want to share with you the average gift size for nonprofits that are setting up tax credits on coloradogives.org. And then we'll review how you set up that tax credit and share that with your donors through the coloradogives.org platform. We'll then hopefully have some time for Q&A. But if we don't have time for Q&A today, we have a full-time customer support team that can help you with any of your questions on how to use the platform. So let's dive in. So what is coloradogives.org? Why are we all here? It is a year-round fundraising platform that is free to all nonprofits. And it's customized for Coloradans. Things like the state tax credits are only available on the Colorado Gives platform to your nonprofits. As I mentioned, it's run by Colorado Gives Foundation with support from our technology partner, who is Mighty Cause. They also manage all of our customer support if you do engage with them. We already chatted a bit about this, but we are so excited, and we hope you are too. Colorado Gives Day is a statewide movement coming up, and it's an online giving event. Last year, we raised over $54 million. And by we, I mean you guys, the nonprofits, on coloradogives.org. And we're now in our 15th year. Your nonprofit can easily join. All you have to do is set up your organization page. I also wanted to mention, and this is a lot of my job year-round, but we provide a lot of year-round training from nonprofit experts. We continue to work on providing digital fundraising resources to you that you can access throughout the year, and a lot more. In this presentation, which hopefully you'll have access to afterwards, you have access to all of the nonprofit resources on Colorado Gives in the nonprofit resources page. So it's linked there for you. For any new nonprofit, so if you do not have an organization page on coloradogives.org, we want you to enroll. If you have any questions or just need a little bit more information, you can always contact our support team. And a nonprofit can enroll. It's a one-question form, and they have to do so before November 24th. And don't wait until then in order to participate in Colorado Gives Day this year. If you have an organization page, or maybe you're just not sure, again, we want you to reach out to the support team because they can give you specific directions on how to edit and update your page so you can make sure you're participating and accepting donations. Okay, here's the good part. So for any organization that's qualifying for tax credits and setting those up on coloradogives.org, we are seeing significant differences in how donors are contributing to those nonprofits. If a nonprofit does not have the tax credit set up, they're getting on average $159 per gift, which is still wonderful. But with tax credits set up, they're getting $381 on average. And so this is a real appeal for any donor that's looking to contribute to your type of mission, cause, or nonprofit. So that's why we're all here today and chatting about how to set this up. All right, so the big question is, how do I set this up on coloradogives.org? So it's very easy, and I'll show you in a live demo. Want to make sure you guys have a handle on how easy the steps are. So step one is you're logging in as an organization admin on coloradogives.org. You're scrolling to the bottom of your organization page, and there's an area right here for tax credits. Within that area, you have the ability to set up your tax credits. For each tax credit, you have the opportunity to inform the donor if there's a minimum or max minimum gift, or note any other factors related to how you want to communicate those tax credits. This information is going to show to the donor if you enable the tax credit toggle here in the feature. Some FYIs about this feature as you're setting it up and considering using it. The info you enter on the tax credit tool will display, so donors can actually see when you have this feature enabled, language on their automated receipt indicating that their donation may qualify for a Colorado state tax credit. Now, this is important. Each organization, so you guys, as you're setting this up on your organization page, you determine the eligibility for that tax credit, and each nonprofit is responsible for issuing the appropriate state tax credit documents directly to the donor after that transaction takes place. And from our end, donors are instructed to contact you guys directly if they do have any questions about Colorado state tax credits. And again, just to make sure you guys are aware, when you're enabling this on coloradogives.org, it means two things that your organization needs to take action on. First, for any donation that qualifies, you're going to, of course, review that for a state tax credit. And then you want to make sure that you're contacting that donor and providing them the next necessary forms and documents to take full advantage of that tax credit after the transaction happens on Colorado Gives. All right. Oftentimes I'm asked, are there ways for donors to tell a nonprofit, so through the checkout, are they able to tell the nonprofit explicitly that their gift, once they want their gift considered for a tax credit? And so the answer is yes. So there's a really easy built-in way for your nonprofit to add a question to your donation form on Colorado Gives. So it's a pre-built question, and it gives you the ability to collect optionally feedback from the donors, a hand raise from the donors about this tax credit. So let's take a look in real time at everything I've just referenced. All right. So here I am on coloradogives.org. This is the home page. This is a year-round platform, so you can access this at any time. One thing I'll mention before we dive into the search is that if you scroll all the way to the bottom as a nonprofit, all of your resources live down here. So your nonprofit resources and help center. Heading back up here to the top, anybody who's coming to coloradogives.org can easily find you, and even easier, bubble up when you have tax credits enabled on your page. So I'm on the general search for coloradogives.org. We have over 4,000 nonprofits leveraging the platform. I'm heading to filters. I'm heading to an actual filter to be able to toggle and see Colorado homeless state tax credits. So immediately within a couple clicks, donors can find and give and get the value of these tax credits through coloradogives.org in a simple search. If we head to an organization page to take a quick peek at what these look like in real time, you're logged in as a donor, or excuse me, you're logged in as a nonprofit admin. You are heading to the bottom of your public-facing organization page. And right here, you can see the tax credits. Bridge House did a great job at setting up their tax credits, counting for a one-time donation with additional qualifying language. They've enabled it, so this language and display is available to donors as they check out. The other thing we mentioned is that custom question. So I want to show you where you can access that. We're heading now from the organization page, public-facing content, to the checkout area, where you can customize your checkout flow on Colorado Gives. We're going to donation form. And here you have the ability to customize different aspects of your donation form. Specifically, we want to add section, select tax credit, and adjust as needed. So this is a built-in question to help your donors raise their hand and indicate if they want their donation to count towards a Colorado state tax credit. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop share. That's the end of my presentation, and I'd love, if it's appropriate, we can take any questions or answer anything that's happened in the chat. Any questions about how you can access the state tax credits on coloradogives.org or their benefits? Great. Well, what I'm going to do here, and thank you all for your time and letting me share my screen with you and remind you about Colorado Gives Day, I'm going to drop in here the FAQ on how to set up the tax credits on coloradogives.org.
There is a question, I believe it's targeted for you. Oh, it just disappeared from the chat.
Sorry,
Vanessa, did you have a question?
I do. So one thing that we as a nonprofit have had confusion with is that question that we add at the end, would you like the tax credit? It actually says either, it says homeless contribution tax credit and childcare. We're eligible for both. Would Colorado Gives ever consider splitting that question so that we could be even more specific? Which credit do you want?
Great question. So that's the pre-built question. You could also add an independent custom question. So if you want it worded differently, you can add a separate custom question in the same area. So if I were to, let me go ahead and share my screen. So in the same area that you are adding this pre-built custom question, you could add new section, and you could actually add a completely custom text question. So if you wanted to adjust that to reference that you qualify for both, there are multiple options and ways for you to do that in the donation form. Good question.
Okay, we do have one more question before we move on to the panel. If the donor checks that they want a tax credit, how do we obtain their tax information from the Colorado Gives website, assuming they are a new donor?
Great question. And so we do not collect any Social Security information or any information that's private in that respect to the donor. And so that is collected post-transaction. So after that transaction is complete, you as a nonprofit are connecting with that donor and collecting that information and providing those specific tax documents. Hopefully that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. I'm going to go on and move to the panel, but we will be sharing the information Lonnie just shared regarding how to follow up with Colorado Gives directly for any additional questions. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Thanks all.
On that note, I'm going to introduce our panel for today. We have 3 panelists joining us for some specific questions that we will be asking, and then we're going to have a short Q&A time as well. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. They are being extremely generous in sharing their time and advice with you today. They have a lot on their plates, just like everyone on this call. And so thanks to them for having to agreed to share their hard-earned insights. And that's just one of my favorite parts of this work with the HCTC is the generosity of each organization here to collaborate, everyone on the call, not just the panelists, and just the spirit of helping each other and sharing in the goal of ending homelessness. So thank you all. And I'd like to introduce my panelists in alphabetical order. So first we have Lance Cheslock. He is the executive director of La Puente Home in Alamosa, Colorado. Lance has 35 years of experience working with the rural homeless programming and resource development. He was instrumental in proposing and assisting with the passage of the Enterprise Zone Contribution Tax Credit in 1994 and played a lead role in proposing and passing HCTC in 2022. And yeah, just on a personal note, appreciate you, Lance, for helping get HCTC implemented. So appreciate your support. Amy Shaw is joining us from STEP Denver, where she is the Director of Development and Marketing. Amy has decades of experience in business development, and since moving into the nonprofit sector 6 years ago, she has raised significant support for both direct service and advocacy organizations in the human services sector. Amy has a passion for helping others, especially those suffering from addiction, which is why her position at STEP Denver is so meaningful. And then last but certainly not least, we have Sharonda Williams, who is the development director at Open Door Ministries located in Denver. Sharonda has 10 years of diverse nonprofit leadership experience, including program management, community engagement, and fund development. As the current director or development director of Open Door Ministries, she leverages her skills and passion to meet every need with the resources to raise funds for an organization operating 18 programs that serve the unhoused and other vulnerable populations in Metro Denver. So appreciate everyone and welcome to the panel today. So to start off, just with some basic fundraising information, if you could summarize your fundraising strategy, how would you summarize that? And Lance, if you could go ahead and get us started.
Okay, I'll thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. I'll get into some basic stuff, but there's some the main 3 points I would want you to take away from here, which takes you all the way to, what we do for all the years I've been here is once you know who you're going to be fundraising with, then telling an impact story is really, really important. Having stories ready to share, having all your staff know about your mission and how to share about your mission. And for me, that is 3 things. Explain the need that is being met. A lot of people just go right into the activities. That's 1. So everybody should know how to explain and articulate your need, both from a quantitative level and a mission level. The second thing is then what you do to meet the need in very simple language. and then what the individual you're reaching out to, how they can help, such as like looking at Colorado Gives. So, and then in cultivating that relationship, of course, impact stories are important. And then I can't stress that developing a relationship with each donor at any particular level through thank yous and phone calls really upgrades them into what they can give. And then anybody you can bring in for a firsthand experience is always going to give more than someone that's just reading your messaging. So then the ways we recruit the names of folks is anybody that volunteers. We automatically get their contact information, they get a thank you note, and they receive ongoing information. And that anyone that even donates a bag of clothing or something simple, capture that name. It's a starting point to build that relationship. People that are visiting and coming by, we like to capture their names. Of course, we have a website and publications. And I would say, if you don't have those things, go to some of the stronger organizations that are established with that and look at what they have and what they're working with. We use Facebook a lot to tell stories and articulate what our needs are. And we're fortunate enough, we can, in a rural area, we can use a coffee shop or other businesses to advertise ourselves. We believe that when we give a presentation in a church, churches are too poor to give money on their own for the most part, but members of the congregation might want to volunteer, might want to give something on their own, and then that gets them kind of jump started in it all. And then we're very active in speaking and things at clubs. So gather names, help provide firsthand experiences, start that relationship up and running, and remember to always tell a story during your phone call thank you, and make sure all your staff understand how to articulate the need. That's the most missed part in marketing, is people just go right to their activities, and then what you do to meet the need, and how people could help. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Lance. Amy, do you have what do you have to add?
Sure. And I'll say thank you also for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share. That was all great things. I'll piggyback a little bit off of that. And what I wanted to share a little bit, like on a deeper level, is more donor relations. We have a really solid donor base here, thankfully. And so, keeping that relationship going, keeping the donor feeling like they're engaged. Every single donation that we get, whether it's $5 or $15,000, gets a thank you call that same day that we get the donation. And I like to go out of my way, either when I'm talking to the donor or leaving a voicemail, just saying, I'm always curious to know why you choose to support the organization. It opens the door to start that conversation. It's not telling them to call me back. It's like, hey, if you'd like to have this conversation, feel free to give me a call. I do get quite a few callbacks, and then we're able to kind of start building this relationship. And so that makes the donor feel appreciated and special. It's also genuine from our end. We truly do want to know. And it really is a special little touch that I like to do. We also have to send thank you letters also for each donation, and we do little handwritten notes from both myself and Megan, our executive director, for every single letter, even all of the Colorado Gives Day letters that go out. 511 donations we had last year, and so we just take the time to go out of our way to do things like that, to really just make the donor feel appreciated. And so that's kind of just what I wanted to offer. I know we don't have a lot of time. I could keep going, but yeah, those are just some personal touches that we do that have really gone a long way in this organization. So that's all I'll share at this point.
Yeah, just the intentionality is so powerful. And the fact that you do have such a loyal donor base just speaks to how your methods really do make a difference. So yeah, Sharonda, what do you have to add on this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you again for the invitation. I appreciate being with you guys. So just to add, beautiful job with Lance and Amy explaining, similar to our organization, very similar as far as taking that extra step of making yourself unique. Just in the day that we're in with the way we communicate, the mass-produced methods, sometimes we lose out on that personal touch, the individuality, the customization. So finding ways to stand out, and that means sometimes going beyond and above the call. Piggyback off of what Lance and Amy just on our end. And Lance mentioned this earlier, but he mentioned the firsthand experiences. So with that, a lot of people don't really realize what they have in their hands per se, as far as an organization. And so if you make the intention of helping your donors as much as possible connect with the mission. That means connecting with the organization, connecting with staff, connecting even with residents or clients, if at all possible, that you serve. So that can mean tours, volunteer opportunities. It can even mean, like for us, we have graduations because we have housing programs, 2-year transitional programs, and we throw graduations for our clients that come out. Inviting donors to that, to the degree that you can, really truly makes a difference, because there's a lot of heartfelt storytelling, testimonials that go out, and people are really able to truly see firsthand your mission. So driving home through making those connections, and you'd be surprised what you're not doing that you can leverage and take advantage of by making sure that your donors are connected, not just by, it's important to connect with communications, letting them know what's happening, but also offering opportunities for them to really connect firsthand with staff, organization, tours, and even clients. That would be helpful. So
Wonderful examples there. Thank you. So moving on more to specifically HCTC communications. We're going to have a question on this, and just for those on the call to be aware, there was a similar tax credit called the Enterprise Zone Tax Credit that included homelessness services. And some of those on the call today were part of that tax credit before being transferred over to HCTC. And that's the case with La Puente, Lance's organization. And so he has that background historically with that tax credit. Both Amy and Sharonda are new to the tax credit realm with HCTC, just starting last year, and so they bring kind of that newer perspective. So with that in mind, what are some key communication points that entice donors to donate to your organization and receive the tax credit? Amy, if you can get us started on that.
Sure. Thank you. So one thing I will say, what we decided to do, because we do have a larger donor base of loyal donors, we decided to bump up our minimum to $1,000. So any donation over $1,000 is eligible for the tax credit. That has been incredible in seeing an increase of gifts. It's also for cumulative over the year. So if people are giving monthly, that's another way to be able to communicate with those donors and say, hey, I know you're giving $50 a month. If you give 84, if you bump up just a little bit, you can get 25% back. So that is some of the messaging that we use. Same with at the end of the year last year, I had people calling in for donations, and they were going to give $800. And I said, well, if you give 1,000, you can get that money back. You're helping the organization more. So that is the kind of messaging for us that has really been huge. We also make sure that the donor is the one doing all of the input for the contributions. So we make sure that we have everybody's email addresses. And so that way, if they're eligible, they get an email right after their donation, which is a template that we've just created that breaks down everything and what they need to do, give them a link. And that way they're doing that on their own time. It cuts back on a lot of the back end work that needs to happen, so that we're not doing that work of inputting each contribution. We just accept the contribution on the Salesforce, the page. And so that's also cut down a lot of work, and it opens the door for conversations from donors too, if they need help or anything like that. And so that's been incredibly helpful. But yeah, one huge thing that I want to share is I think because we set a higher level of donations, and I know not every nonprofit can do this because a lot of nonprofits are just starting. We saw an increase last year. It was 19% of our total donations for the year. We were up, and then 20% just for Colorado Gives. So that is huge as far as the increase of donations goes. And I mean, it is because of the tax credit. There's no way around that. This has been incredibly helpful for us to be able to help more men on the street. So that's all I'll say. I'll give everybody else a chance. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to clarify some of what Amy was explaining on the donor submission piece. So HCTC, we offer 2 opportunities for you to submit those contributions. You can do that yourself as the organization on the Salesforce page, or some organizations use the donor contribution form. And so Amy was sharing how that's effective for them in their strategy. But Sharonda, what else do you have to share?
Yeah, so similar to Amy and Step Denver, we have really been able to take advantage of increasing that monetary cash contribution amount. We also require $1,000 each year to qualify. And that in itself has helped to bump donors up. If you're working with the tier system and you're trying to encourage them to increase their donation, this is a prime situation where you can encourage increased donations for that. So yes, I definitely recommend that. Also, on just our front, it's not necessarily the particular messaging, but rather using what you have. I'm huge on using what you have to get the message out. So we're believers of making multiple touch points. So the key that you have is the fact that you are giving a benefit to your donor base and community. So that on top of making an impact and changing the world. So we have no fear of putting it on all forms of communication. So sending a text blast, sending an email blast, and these aren't necessarily separate. They are incorporated in our regular communication. So we don't want you all to have to think that you have to do a full-blown or another campaign. You can incorporate this within your regular campaigns and communications and marketing to promote it. It can be a tagline at the end, it can be a feature, but just throwing it in social media posts, phone calls that you make, thank you notes. It can be at events. We make announcements because a lot of times, and they say it's for a reason, a lot of times people need up to 7 reminders of a certain announcement before they're able to make or do an action or an answer to call to an action. So with that in mind, that's why algorithms nowadays drive us nuts, because they understand the need to repeat. And so that's the same tactic we make, because a lot of times people maybe not be reading the emails, but they are privy to listening to a phone call. They might be privy to face-to-face communication. So you mentioning it during a meeting, again, it's not invasive because it is a benefit to them. So just making the point of putting it into your regular communications, multi-point touch points throughout the year, it truly has helped us to be able to get the messaging out there.
I would agree with that, Shonda, as far as having those repeated messages, just for people to really truly digest the information, for sure. Lance, what would you have to add?
Yeah, great presentations, Amy, Sharonda. We take a different approach than both Amy and Sharonda's programs. I call it the plant and grow strategy. So we will accept any size of donation, and $100 is our kind of bottom with HCTC. And the reason that we take this different strategy is there's a lot of people that just, if we can just get our foot in the door with them, then we can share our story and our impact and inspire them to grow on the next steps. You know, we live in an area of high poverty, and so we don't have the benefit of having donors that would give at that high of a level. So we start people, sometimes it's $25, $50, and then when they reach that threshold, it goes up. We also will write personal thank you notes for someone who gave a bag of clothing, and make sure that they get this little booklet that we put out that tells stories and things. We have several of these that are our follow-ups. So we feel like once they're talking to us because they gave to us, they're on our radar screen, and we will do what we can to kind of try to grow and upgrade their giving, including educating folks that have not used HCTC because their donations are small, and do the very same thing that Sharonda and Amy do to say, hey, give us $100. This is what happens going forward. We also like to give people an idea of what specifically examples of what specific financial gifts might mean in terms of examples. And so on our donor envelope, we'll have a little checkbox that you can see here, where we have quantified items that might be, we do also use the child care tax credit. So it might be what a field trip might cost for PAL's kids, how much 1,000 meals costs at the shelter, the provision of providing 100 hygiene kits for our street outreach program. So we try to cover a full range of costs where it's real. And we're not saying, we make sure we're saying that those are examples, because you don't want people all giving to those same causes, because that can kind of backfire on you. But when we talk, when we throw out the cost that it takes to rapidly rehouse a family or an individual to get them in their homes, which our number is around $2,500, those come back to us as donations through the tax credit that also can be part of our match requirements if you get, ESG funding or other funding. That's what I've got for this part of the presentation.
Brianne, I just wanted to add one thing that I forgot to mention, just to encourage everyone. So with us, we at Open Door, we saw an 82% increase once we started implementing HCTC to support some of our homeless related programming. So it truly is a powerful tool once you put it to work, and we have seen glorious results. So just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Awesome. Thanks for mentioning that, Sharonda. Yeah, I think it's a combination of a tool and the strategies and work you put in. So thank you all for sharing your strategies. I also see some people putting ideas in the chat as well, so check those out. Awesome. Yeah, awesome conversation. I do want to pivot the conversation a bit to some organizations that may have some challenges based on location or size. So what would be your thoughts on how a small or rural organization and how they can succeed in fundraising with a limited donor pool and or a small staff? And Sharonda, if you can get us started on this question.
Yeah, so I love this question because I currently work for a mid-level organization, but I have worked with startups before, so I definitely understand the struggle. One thing I'll briefly start with is just with this question, it brings to mind to make sure that you and your staff have a position or a mindset that is postured knowing that you're not operating out of scarcity, but of plenty. Knowing that regardless of where you start, how you start, even just with the challenges and hurdles that you have to overcome, that there is a resource to meet every need. So that was a powerful thing for us, even because what happens is once your organization grows, your challenges grow, your need grows, you're going to always have a need. So having that mindset shift is truly important. And also, I'll just kind of say, with my experience with working a startup, I know one thing that we really focused on is cultivating community. So really providing your current loyal donors, which is your low-hanging fruit. So those who are bought into the mission, those that you already have in your corner, really inviting them to become champions and partners with you in the mission by whatever they're passionate about. So figuring out their passion points and how they can leverage what they're passionate about, those skills, even the points in your programming that they can attach themselves to help just be a voice, be a champion for your organization through just asking them to gather a small group together. If they already have a small group, let's say they are a part of a church small group, that's an opportunity that they're already currently a part of that they can take advantage of to spend a few minutes or even create a full night opportunity where you're presenting the mission. Again, using what people already have and their passion points of your mission to work with them to strategize on how they can be champions of your mission. And then that will grow your network, that will grow the people that know and the awareness about your organization, and it'll continue to blossom from there.
Lance, I'm curious to hear from what you have to say on the rural perspective. You have decades in that realm. So
Well, it's first of all, I want to acknowledge that the rural is very different. And so rural can mean like Pitkin County, where it's affluent. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but rural can also mean almost frontier, where you're isolated from front range resources. And how do you get any even front range dollars, and how do you work your community locally? One of the advantages of rural communities, if you're in one of those, is I can go into our little newspaper office and have a cup of coffee with the editor and talk about things. And we're working up a couple of articles. They're always hungry for PSAs. And so we're sending a PSA around today to our two radio stations, which is all we have, and our newspaper, where about a food bank need that has come up. And then also about our Christmas outreach party that we're kind of putting together. So you can have these face-to-face relationships where newspapers understaffed, and we'll say, hey, we'll write that article. You could just edit it to your own perspective. And oftentimes the photo and the article can just come from us. It's easy for us to get into churches as well, or as well as businesses, and oftentimes even get into schools, where I think that a lot of the city places, those are very hard, or they take a lot of time, or you have to have different connections. And so we use the small community ambience that you often know people in 2 or 3 different situations to kind of pull people in. And then to that end, going back to the importance of getting a firsthand experience, we have then invite First Federal Bank for their staff to have lunch at the soup kitchen. We've invited a real estate company to come and walk the homeless encampment with us and meet people there. We can do things that on a more intimate scale. And I would really strongly recommend that since I really believe in firsthand experiences can create donors and upgrade donors, that you have a little process for doing that. And sometimes it's just starting with leadership. So we've had our city council come over and got to meet residents and things, and that sort of lowers the stereotypes that can be out there, and helps them have them leaders can more better support the story of your organizations at a higher level. And then have financial institutions or other institutions also come in for those sort of events. So those are things that I think leveraging what you get as advantages in a small community is a good thing. And then one of our sneakier tricks, which people may not like, is we have churches and colleges from the Front Range come down and do service learning weeks with us. We capture their names. And then the novelty of coming to our area, getting away from the city to see that rural homelessness is a very different story and different dynamic. We bond with them, and then we do the traditional type of developing them in the donation stream that we do with all of our donors. I'm going to give everybody one last tip that has nothing to do with rural or urban, but if for your larger donors, and you can decide what that means to you, and we're talking about this giving season, and you have your thank you and and maybe your phone call. If you call a donor or even a foundation on the off season, you get incredible rewards for that, because most foundations and people think that when you're calling later on that you're going to ask for money. But if you just have your favorite story, like we just had this incredible success story of a guy who just went through all of our programs, and he's in his own place and he had a job. I'm calling people now as quickly as I can, because the closer it gets to the holiday, it looks like pandering. The closer you get to a foundation deadline, it looks like pandering. But if you got your grant or you got your donation at Christmas and you're calling in March, and you're not asking for nothing, you're just telling a story, you are making incredible movement in those relationships. That's all I got.
Wow. Yeah. I love all those ideas. And just, yeah, just bringing it home to the mission and the story, and connecting with donors, as it's been a theme. Those have all been themes throughout the panel so far. So thank you for that, Lance. Okay, our last prepared question is kind of moving from, if you do have challenges with a small staff, a smaller organization, what are other resources you can leverage for fundraising? And that can be your board of directors. And how do you cultivate your board to take initiative in fundraising? Amy, we'll start with you on this question.
Sure, thank you. One thing, because I know with nonprofits, boards can be incredibly difficult. I'm so grateful we have such an engaged board here. In the past, I've had some difficulty with board engagement, and I think one of the most important things that I've learned is really getting to know your board. Just even one-on-one, right? Having one-on-one meetings, coffee, whatever it is, just to really get to know them. What's their background? How do they want to benefit the organization? Things like that. And from that, you can kind of build on that more and more. It also depends on what you're looking for, whether it's committees or it's mapping exercises. I've done mapping exercises with board members, and what that means is sitting them down and really having a clear, concise path, right? So if I'm looking for a specific industry that I'm wanting to tap into that will align with STEP's mission, I'm sitting down with these board members that maybe I've already gotten to know a little bit, and I know that they probably have some good connections, and trying to kind of lead them in this way. And so getting people's names, contact information, trying to get, introductions set up, things like that, that then can go in all these different directions of different types of support. And for me, that is just one small part of board engagement and involvement. I know Lance and Sharonda are going to have other things to talk about too, but it's just so important to also make the board member feel important. They're taking their time, energy, efforts to put into the nonprofit, and they want to feel heard and they want to feel important also. And I think giving them that time and space one-on-one is incredibly beneficial. And then you can build the relationship with them where, I mean, I've got board members' cell phones where I can shoot them a text or call them and just ask them a question. And to be able to have that type of relationship on that level, to me, is really meaningful, and will benefit down the road. So.
Thank you, Amy. What else do you have to add on that, Lance?
Okay. Yeah, we have a hard time getting board members in a rural community, and a lot of the best board members are already on a couple of other boards in that way. The first thing we want to make sure is that they are equipped to speak to others about the organization. So I wrote that little blurb in the notes there, and I'll just say it, where they memorize this and then they put it in their own words. So they will say, Colorado San Luis Valley is a vast, isolated region that experiences national high rates of poverty. Poverty begets hunger, homelessness, and other crises that destabilize families. La Puente is our community's response to address the effects of poverty by providing a safety net of services where individuals and families get what they need to stabilize, heal, strengthen, and ultimately thrive. So they want a quick way to be able to talk about the organization. They don't even have to say that. They can just say the last sentence. So equipping them with what to say and how to get into it, always emphasizing that what I said earlier, you have to talk about the need, and then what is done to meet the need, and then be prepared to understand what it is that is needed for help. Then with our board members, they have business relationships, clubs, and other things that they're in. We, at the very front end, while we're recruiting them, we say, one of your jobs we want you to do is we want your friends to get to know about us. And I don't do any arm twisting, show them how to do arm twisting type of fundraising. We feel like if you bring a friend to our candlelight vigil, we can take over from there. You bring a friend or friends of yours to our, we have a fundraiser, which is at at a farm, a bar, and no, a brewery that's out in the country in a barn in the middle of nowhere. We have a big fundraiser out there with music and things. Hey, bring your friends to that event. Let us share about the mission. We have an art show that is put together by those that we serve, our clients that we serve, that is hosted at a local coffee shop. We want them, we say, come and bring your friends. And then we have our Thanksgiving outreach event. So if you have any type of event or gathering where something is going to be shared about the mission and what you do, your board members should be going to those things, and those things should be designed to be fun and not depressing. And just have them, we have them bring their friends or folks, try to require them to do that. And every year we get introduced to new people.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love the elevator pitch idea, Lance, because people may understand the gist of your organization, but how to make that concise when they're talking with their friends or colleagues is, really effective. So thanks for that. Sharonda, what do you have to add on board engagement?
Yeah, excellent from Amy and Lance. Just similar on my end, I'll just add that the personalization and creativity go together, really do work when it comes to board engagement. We understand it's super difficult, so that comes with the territory of operating a nonprofit. I will say, if you do, a lot of people don't have the luxury, but if you do have the luxury, start off when it comes to board selection and vetting, to really kind of dig into their network, dig into what they could offer and bring to the table in relation to fundraising skills. There is a degree of fundraising that everyone should be involved in, but having the ability to point out different skills that you could leverage. They don't necessarily have to have a fundraising background, but if they have communication background, or fearless when it comes to presenting a mission or a need, if they have a huge network, they might not have any, again, business experience, but they have a network. Those different things could really help and benefit as you are engaging. And as Amy said, really dig into individually what a board member is passionate about, get to know them, and they will feel welcomed, invited, and inspired to continue to engage. And similar to what Lance says, really, you're going to have to be strategic in creating opportunities for board to engage. Unfortunately, board members are not going to naturally create opportunities. So having those opportunities, our organization, we have about 4 different events, 4 to 5 each year. And so there are board members that one of our events is a golf tournament. One of our board members loves golf. He recently created 4 foursomes for us because he's passionate about golf, but we won't ever see him at the gala. So just an example of, figuring out what a board member is passionate about, allowing them to kind of select what they can get involved in, especially if it's an event-oriented thing. If you give them too much, they'll be discouraged, but if you give them just enough and in the realm or lane where they're passionate, they will definitely work with you when it comes to networking, inviting other people, being just greeters, making sure that board members can take ownership as you present an opportunity. So it really is a marriage between staff and board. And one thing that we do specifically, once you get to a place or a degree where you have a rather larger board, you can create a fundraising committee specifically where you have board members that are on the committee that will have different points of expertise that are necessary to raise funds, and mix them with your fundraising staff. That could be your development director, your ED, your executive director, anyone else that is raising funds. Have them to meet. It can be, we meet quarterly, but it can be however frequent, to have a meeting of the minds. Because once you get a group of people together who have those expertise, they start to come up with ideas. A lot of times you can't get those ideas coming out of a regular board meeting. meeting, but having a committee that can frequently talk through strategies throughout the year that will support staff and that board can come alongside, that really kind of helps to break out the creativity as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think hopefully that gives some tangible ideas for things maybe you're not currently, or strategies you're not currently using with your board, and ways to engage with them a little differently. So thank you all for sharing that. We do have a few questions that were submitted previously in the chat that we can discuss. We do have some time, about 15 minutes to spend on this. So if you do have a question for the panel, go ahead and place that in the chat, and we may be able to address that question. So I believe you answered this, somewhat, but do you have any additional insights into the best target audience for these kinds of donations? And whoever wants to jump in on that.
Yeah, I think as Lance really beautifully brought out, it definitely depends on, the region, your location, your donor base, how many people you're working with. Having a way that you can encourage, it is a method where you can encourage increased giving. So basically determining if you have a way to segment your donor base and figure out who gives within each category, who is a, annual or lower level donor, who's a mid-level, who is a major donor. And then from there, figuring out what would be the best threshold. For some people it's 250 as far as the minimum qualify requirement for HCTC gift. It could be that based on where your threshold is, it should be bumped up to 1,000, but it should be a challenge to where you're encouraging increased, giving. So it really depends on, just your organization and your donor base. So we don't want to necessarily entrap you into locking you into a certain people group to reach out to. It can benefit anyone. The state law is that the minimum is 100. So if you want to, start from there and work your way up, you can. But yeah, it really works for anyone who is a state resident.
I'll just reiterate our strategy is, we want donors to know all their options at the same time of how they can engage, and then let them choose. So whether that's volunteering, if that's giving us tents and sleeping bags, if it, or coming and cooking a meal, if it's a financial donation, and then HCTC is right front and center on that page alongside of all of those things, so that they're not feeling pushed into one thing, but they have engagement options. Then we grow it from there.
I'll just throw in, Sharana, totally agree. Segmenting donors is so important so that you're spending your energy and time talking to the right people. Not saying that all the donors aren't important, but if you do set that level, like $1,000, you really want to make sure that you're communicating to the correct people. One other thing that I will throw out that we did last year when we first started all of this was, because we're doing the email thing, right? After they give the amount, we send them an email. Anybody that we didn't have emails for, we created these little postcards that said, hey, we actually are taking part in this awesome thing, the HCTC, and it can benefit you. We need your email address. And so here's what this does. You got to let us know if you want to be a part of it. We also, when we sent out thank you notes, if we didn't have their email address, we put messaging on the thank you letter as well. If you want to take part in this, we need your email address. It's another way to kind of engage and let people know that this is happening. And one other thing I wanted to say too, because I saw something about clear and concise, I'm probably jumping ahead, communication. I know we talked about reminding with everything, even on our appeal letter that's about to go out, on the actual remit page, I've put in bold black, if you give $1,000 or greater, you could be eligible, or you are eligible for this tax credit. And so when they go to write their check or whatever, they're seeing that, and it's just another reminder for them, right? When they go to write that check, they're gonna see that maybe they're gonna write it for $1,000 or more, because they are reminded again. So, you know, it is a little blip if they're, and I put too, if you have any questions or if you'd like to make a donation over the phone, please call me. That way they have a way to reach me if they have questions, or if they don't really know what the tax credit is, if they, you know, haven't been paying attention. But I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Great tips on that. There has been some more action in the chat related to the board. And Caitlin was sharing a board of directors challenge. So basically making it sort of like a challenge to fundraise for the organization. And she has a draft email for that. So yeah, that's a great idea. So they're trying that as a new strategy. And so I hope it works, Caitlin. It looks like you're saying it's your first time implementing it. So hope you see success with that. Okay. I have a little more technical question that was submitted. Stock gifts are considered in-kind gifts for HCTC. And so we have someone who's hoping to learn more about how to direct donors interested in making an HCTC gift of stock. Are they able to both avoid capital gains taxes and get the 25% HCTC credit? What steps does the nonprofit need to make sure to accomplish both? Does anyone on our panel have? Go ahead, Sharonda.
Yeah, sure. So we also implement, we kind of have a calendar where we, communication wise, where we make sure that periodically we focus on non-cash, legacy, planned giving, stock giving. All of that is wrapped up in the non-cash realm. And so you could, you know, do periodic features to appeal to those who give stock gifts, and then you can make mention at the bottom, always wrapping in and incorporating HCTC that a gift of over $5,000 can qualify for, you know, stock gift. And so there's no capital gains, and they still do qualify for the 25% tax credit. A DAF does not qualify, a donor advised fund. So correct me if I'm wrong. I want to make sure I'm saying that right, but for stock gifts of over $5,000, it does qualify for HCTC, and it's not a capital gains tax on that. So what we do is we just feature it periodically. And also, if you currently have a donor base that is currently or has in the past given in-kind gifts through stock, that is a great opportunity to reach out to them. It could literally be a, you know, personal email, just, you know, saying, hey, catching up, letting them know, hey, I have a great opportunity as you're, you know, considering your securities this year. If you give a gift of 5K or above, or over 5,000, then, you know, this is the benefit. So just kind of looking out for who currently gives stock and enticing them and encouraging them that way through periodic communication.
I appreciate your insights on that, Sharonda. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up with a final question on end of year giving. Does the panel have any ideas or thoughts on capitalizing on end of year giving, and what you've seen successful for that?
Yeah, I'll jump in really quickly. So I'm sorry, Amy, I apologize. For us, that was probably the main revenue driver. Of course, is the optimal time for people to give. And so we were really able to take advantage through all of our, you know, campaign mediums that we, you know, were able to encourage HCTC. So just encourage you all, if you all don't have the modes of communications as other organizations do, please take advantage of what Colorado Gives has provided. They have, again, that nonprofit resource link where you can you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can get everything you need and customize it to the degree that works for your organization. So use what has been given to you. I'll also say that with HCTC, and we also qualify for the Colorado contribution childcare credit. So we always, what would be appealing is always tying the campaign to a story. Lance really hit this home. And so when you are sharing impact and stories of what can happen when giving increases in the realm of supporting homeless contribution tax credit, or, just this credit in general, it really truly makes a difference and extends your reach to what you're able to do. So always, especially for year end, tie in your appeal to impact stories. So,
Amy?
Yes, I was just gonna say, if it is possible, if you have a relationship with a donor that would offer a match, I think that that is like one of the most beneficial things that I've seen. Even if it's anything, $5,000, whatever it is. We've been super fortunate to have some really incredible matches here at Step, and it is mind blowing. People want a dollar for dollar match. And so if I've noticed anything, it's that especially at the end of the year, if there is one, people are more likely to give more. So that's just my 2 cents.
Lance's perspective, for me, I like what these guys are saying. For us, it's just like pull out the stops. We know that like 80% of the donations happen in this next period of time. And so, boy, get everything on Facebook, get your stories lined up, get your board calling, doing things. We just put a PSA in the paper because a lot of our clients need firewood. That's our only sole source of heat or whatever. And so when we have the phones are answering, we make sure they know about the HCTC, is that's all the different ways we can use it. So we make sure every staff person is equipped to say what the need is. We and are ready to go. So it's kind of an all hands on deck. Every platform, we got a donor to buy a full page ad in our small paper where we're going to talk about Colorado Gives and all the programmings and things. And so you got to invest in it from a staff perspective and from a diverse perspective and from a financial perspective to get a good return on investment.
Yeah, love that focus there, Lance. This is the time to make it happen. So agreed. I do want to have time to share some specific materials with those on the call. If we have just maybe 2 to 3 minutes, we can spend on this final question regarding challenges of personal identifying information and how to save that securely. I know that, Amy, you already shared that you all use that donor submission form, so the donors submit that and you don't actually touch that data. Lance or Sharonda, do you have ways that you've met that challenge? Even with now the last 4 digits being, required, that's still sensitive information for some people.
Yeah, so thankfully we've maybe run into that with a very small percentage, maybe like a handful. So grateful that pretty much mostly everyone understands just the greater need of providing their gift versus the issue with the sensitive information. But what we do is we as a development staff, because we have that relationship with our donors, we are the ones collecting information, and typically it's in a private manner, whether it's either face to face if they're filling out something at an event, or it's over the phone, and then we have a system that is encrypted that we submit everything to our business department, and then they have the information on hand. So to make sure that we maintain that confidentiality, but that's kind of how we do it. But I know everyone will have a different method depending on their donor base.
This is Lance. Everything Sharonda said, just build a trusting relationship with those who donate. and respect those that can't use it, and just say, well, if there's another way you'd like to give, can we talk about that? So
Yep.
it's all about respect. I don't have any feedback from the 4-digit one yet, and we had like 3 donors who were stuck in providing us their full last year out of a pretty big pool. So I'll have more learning next year.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our panel portion. Wow, a lot of insights, a lot of great tips. Thank you so much, all 3 of you, for sharing, and also for those who gave ideas in the chat as well. So yeah, appreciate your insights. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and go over some materials to hopefully help you make some of this happen, and be able to utilize HCTC for your end of year giving. So we do have some hot off the press marketing materials available, and we're utilizing Canva. And so I want to highlight, if your organization is not using the platform Canva for some of your graphic design needs, that it is free for nonprofits. And so you just apply on the site and you provide proof of your 501c3 status. Once that's reviewed, you're able to have a free nonprofit account. So the designs on Canva, just from personal experience, are easy to use and they look great, and it's free. So hopefully, if your organization's not already using it, you can create an account and use some of our HCT templates that I'm about to show you. So this is the main page of the Canva for Nonprofits website, which we'll share a link in the chat. And as you can see, it's just 3 steps for applying. You fill out the application, they'll review and verify it, and you'll receive notification over email that you are eligible for the Canva for Nonprofits account type. So with that, we do have, I'm going to be sharing. Okay, I'm just going to pause and share that we are going to be sending a follow-up email. So all of the links I'm about to share with you, we're going to send via email for those who are on our newsletter list. And we've had requests for sharing other information like the donor submission link. We can also share that in the follow-up email as well. So yeah, hopefully that calms your nerves on that. We'll make sure everyone has all of these resources. So this is a template for basically 3 types of graphics. So we have a template for Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so once you access the link for these templates, you will just click this button, Use Template for New Design here. Then you're taken to Canva, where this is your copy of these materials. You're able to edit them. And the first couple of slides here are basically kind of instruction slides. So it's a link for the other graphics that are available for the other platforms if you want to use those. And then here it's highlighted where you might want to customize these. So for example, if you're a rural organization, you can offer a 30% tax credit for your donations. So you'll want to change these graphics to say 30%. And then there's placeholders throughout each graphic for your website and branding for these graphics. So there's 3 options here. Showing the types of, this one focuses on the types of contributions that are eligible for HCTC. Then we have one that's really focused on, your information, your email, your website, and bringing it back on supporting your organization. And then we have one here, maximize your year-end donation. Just really simple for you to be able to post on social media. So hopefully you're able to use these as 3 simple graphics and tailor them for your organization via Canva, and use these as a springboard for some developing your own materials via Canva as well for maybe your emails or print materials as well. So I also want to share a donor flyer that we have updated and will be emailing out as well. So this is just a very overview of HCTC. Basically why of HCTC, to break it down for donors, and including what contributions qualify for HCTC and how do you participate. And so we do direct it back to you as the organization to contact you, make that donation, provide the donor, noting that the donor does need to provide their personal information. And so hopefully you're able to utilize this in either print or digital formats as well. So these are a couple examples that we from DOLA are able to provide for some materials. And I also want to highlight, some have been sharing links in the chat as well, but we have some nonprofit examples of website and materials that do a great job of highlighting HCTC. So I'm gonna pull out a couple of these as we have time. And probably the organization that put the most time and effort in their HCTC page is Providence Network. I'm still amazed at this page. If you scroll down, you will see multiple videos talking about HCTC. That it gives a highlight of what it is, the amount of the percentage of the credit, their minimum as the donation for monetary contributions, and then they go into different questions related to HCTC, what it is, who qualifies, how do you get the tax credit, when do you receive the certificate. And so some of these questions are customizable for your organization. Some of you distribute your certificate for each individual donation. Some of you do that on an annual basis. So this would be, customized for your organization. But this is a great example. I know a lot of you might not have time to create videos like this organization, but these are some great examples of questions to ask and answer for your donors. And so, yeah, this is probably the shining star of examples, but I think this also gives some examples of questions to ask, links to include. So linking to the HCTC website is important. It looks like Providence also includes that donor submission portal that we were talking about earlier. So they have it linked here. They have a link to the HCTC website and also to our video tutorial that we provide on our website as well. So really great example here, but we also have some other examples where maybe you have multiple tax credit types that you offer. Some of the other nonprofit examples here give that highlight of the different tax credits that are available at that organization. So Partners in Housing, they have a tax credit website where they talk about HCTC specifically and how to opt in. And then they talk about the child care tax credit specifically and give those specific requirements. So great ways to market to your donors. We also have examples of print material. So thanks to the organizations that gave permission to share this out. Basically, if you're using the donor portal, here are a couple examples of, ways to share with your donor. So this organization, they literally attach this half page to their donation receipt, stating that if you're if you're interested in the HCTC tax credit, visit this link and submit your donation on this page. So you can also use an email method like Amy was sharing earlier. It just really depends on you and your donors and how you and how you best communicate with them. I just want to wrap up and say that we do plan on having an office hours in just a couple of weeks. So we shared a lot of information here, a lot of questions shared in the chat, and wanting to highlight at office hours how we can dig in on any marketing questions you may have. If you would like for us to review your materials, come on to office hours. I'd be happy to give feedback there, or send us an email and we can provide feedback on, you might want to tweak this wording, or this aspect of HCTC, is a little nuanced. You might want to word it this way. And just wanting to also highlight that donor advised fund donations are not eligible. This came up in the chat and is relevant for Colorado Gives as well, because donations through Colorado Gives can be through a DAF. So that's something you'll want to be aware of as you're communicating with donors, is that a donor advised fund or DAF is not eligible for HCTC. And so I know that's unfortunate for you, but just wanting to make sure that that's within the communications in your platform, that there's clarity there, so a donor doesn't expect to get a tax credit and then have their expectations unrealized. So, but yeah, mark your calendars. We'll invite you to the office hours in November, so we can dig in on some of this, because this is such a important topic that we could get into the details on. And finally, we are putting a link in the chat of a 4-minute survey to just share your feedback. Appreciate the feedback that's already been given in the chat, and questions and suggestions, and sharing resources. But if you can provide that feedback in the survey regarding what you learned and what you'd like to hear maybe next year if we make this an annual event, that's really helpful to us. I just want to say that this webinar was put together based on feedback we got from you. So from some of our surveys that we've sent in the past from our office hours, this was trying to meet the needs that you shared with us, and I take it very seriously when you share your feedback. So appreciate you just taking a couple minutes to complete that survey. If you're not able to access Google Forms, that is the format for the survey. Just send us an email and we'll provide you another method for sending in that feedback. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the recording, and thank everyone for coming and participating. And I will stay on the call for anyone with additional questions. I won't leave you hanging. I'll stay on the call, but appreciate everyone's time today, and especially our panelists. Phenomenal job. So we're ending with 1 minute to spare. Awesome. Thank you for your time today.